Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner-operator of Actually Dyed Art by Science, and now we are going to skein up our project yarn for the Yuna Shrug. Now, I just kind of leave my bobbins on the lazy kate that comes with the Kromsky Minstrel, but you could certainly leave it up on the Maiden, or you can, maybe you've created some really cool device or you have a different kind of lazy kate. But I don't ever tension whenever I remove my yarn from my bobbin. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to skein up this whole bobbin live with with my Niddy Noddy, or your Niddy Noddy, because you're at your house. So mine kind of, I twist the top so that it's 90 degrees from the bottom. I rotate it 90 degrees so that it's perpendicular to the bottom piece down here, right? It's kind of hard to fit this in the frame, but if I maybe twirl it like this, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, I really like starting with this end where it has the little kind of lip coming up like this. I like to start with this end. So what I do is I just put this between my knees usually, and then I grab the piece of yarn like so. And then I go over and tie it to the shaft like so. So this is the part facing away from me, this is the part facing towards me, and I kind of just do an overhand knot here like that. And I like to keep my thumb on it. That's just a personal thing. Okay. Now we've gone over, and then we're going to come around to the back and go under. Now I rotate it, and then I'm going to come up and go over. So you see how my hand is twisted? This is the front. This is usually facing me. Okay? And I'm going to rotate it back so that it's facing me again. And then I'm going to come under the bottom like this. And when I feed it up to the top, I have made one whole loop. So when I first started using a Niddy Noddy, my arm kept getting in the way. So I figure if you have your hand like this holding the central shaft piece, your arm will never be in the way. So I hold my hand here, and then I just rotate it when I put on the yarn like so. Okay? Now, there is a better way of putting the yarn on here than just kind of doing it haphazardly. So let's get close to the camera. Kind of get it to focus. All right, you see how the yarn here is kind of next to each other? When I am skeining up my yarn, I try to set the yarns next to each other. So focus. There we go. So this is 1, 2, 3 wraps. Come on, it was focusing so well earlier. I guess my arm is in the way. There we go. It's focused now. So there's the 3 pieces right next to each other. And I will do this for the first several establishing wraps, like so. I just kind of wrap them next to each other. And it's just like when you're making a cup, when you're spinning your yarn, that you want to advance kind of systematically. So I sort of get several wraps done, all at the same level. Okay, see, it's all at the same level. If I get close. There we go. You can see it's all at the same level. All of the bumps at the top, all of these bumps are at the same height. So if you wanted to, you can even count these wraps. Alright, now it could just be because I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to perfection. Not for everything, but for some things. I like to sort of build up this way before I start double wrapping and triple wrapping the yarn on top of other yarn. The reason why I like to do this for when I skein up the yarn is because when you put it on a yarn swift in order to make a center pole ball, I've learned that the yarns kind of get a little crisscrossed, which is a pain in the butt. When all you want to do is make a skein of yarn, or sorry, a ball of yarn from the skein, and you have to stop every yard or two just to fix the yarn for the first quarter of the ball of yarn, it drives me nuts. I just want to make the ball of yarn and get going, because I mean, if you're anything like me, what often happens is I decide to start on a project right before a movie. It's like the movie is in, the popcorn is made, drinks are served, and here I am skeining up or balling up some yarn just before the movie starts. And if you are married to someone who's not into the same activities as you, they do get annoyed. So if you have to keep stopping because the yarn keeps tangling on itself, then you know, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'll get another wrap and then show you again. So I'm just kind of wrapping it in multiple layers. So this is roughly, this little spot, maybe there are 3 layers thick, maybe this spot over here is 2 layers thick, but the foundational layer is at least 1 thick. Okay. So we're just going to keep doing this, and when I skein up yarn, I'm going to give you a little tip so that you don't hurt yourself. When I first started spinning, I was making lots of teeny little skeins of yarn with my homemade PVC Niddy Noddy, and I found that my shoulder would start to hurt. Oh, I lost the end there. Okay, so my shoulder would start to hurt. This spot right here. So what I try to do is actually use both of my arms in tandem if possible. So I'm kind of moving the Niddy Noddy by rotating my arm rather than moving my shoulder around, right? Because if you move your shoulder around, then it starts to hurt right here. And if you already have shoulder problems, this is just going to exacerbate it. So I move the Niddy Noddy to the yarn. So I'm keeping my yarn hand mostly in one place, right? Except for this back one, I move it a little bit. But I try to keep it up here in one spot and just move the Niddy Noddy around my wrist, move the Niddy Noddy around by using my wrist and twisting my whole arm. Like so. Whoops. That occasionally happens. when it happens, I like to work it back a little bit, just because I want to keep even tension. If it slips and you don't go back, what can sometimes happen is the yarn, when it's been taken off the Niddy Noddy and you're in the middle of washing it, one of the loops, instead of being in line with all the others, one of the loops will hang droopy. It's not a big deal, but it will get caught a little more easily, and it can actually cause the yarn in the skein to shift a little bit because there's that little bit of slack. So if you slip off, then just go back a yard or two and redo it. Try to keep the tension the same throughout. There are even some attachments for spinning wheels. You can get an attachment for your wheel which will do this for you as you're spinning. I've actually never used such an attachment, but I know they exist. And for people who make a lot of yarn, it's extremely convenient, as you can imagine. So we are nearing the end here. You can see how the bobbin is emptying fairly quickly. And I'll show you how I do the figure-8 ties. When I first started making skeins of yarn, I would just use little scraps of yarn, which is fine, but if you're going to submit your yarn to a competition, it's actually a little unsightly. And if it's a close competition, they may dock points from your entry, because it doesn't look as pretty. It's not as photogenic. So, alright, we made it to the end. I'm just going to set the Niddy Noddy down, and I'm going to cut it from the end. Now, you guys know me, I'm weird. I actually keep these little things, because they're just little bits of lightly spun fiber, and I can really use this to create some texture in future bats. So I don't throw this away, I keep it. And then to keep this end from unraveling, in another video I said do an overhand knot. So I just take it over, through, and then I shift the knot up towards the tip where I cut. So I have a little knot there, like so. Alright, now comes the readjustment. So I'm going to set up the camera for showing you a close-up of how to do the figure-8 ties without needing any scrap yarn, just using the yarn that you have. Okay? Be right back. We could just tie this off, and we could just tie these two pieces together at the top, and that would be that. But we are going to do something which looks a little better. Now, I have all this extra length. My Niddy Noddy is a 2-yard Niddy Noddy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo one wrap, which is the same as 2 yards. Okay, so this is going to be at least 2 yards to do the figure-8 wrap. I have done it with a little bit less than that, but it feels really tight. And if you have anything more than that, you can always just cut off the extra if you want. So here we have, this is where we made the overhand knot, and I have that facing towards me. The yarn is coming off the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. Okay? So you can see the knot, like the little tail, is not here, it's on the other side. Okay? So I have my length of yarn here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this into 4 parts. They don't have to be equal. There doesn't have to be like specific quantities, just about 4 equal pieces. Then I always grab my yarn between my 2 fingers like this, and I weave it between the pieces. So under, over, under, over. Okay? So if you are, I'm going to do this a couple times, so just bear with me. So you can see how this yarn, you can see it's crossing here and it comes out here. It's going to wrap around like that. So one more time. Divide it. You can do 3. I like to do 4 because it's a little bit more secure. So I have 4 pieces here. And I have my yarn between my fingers. And I'm going to go under, over, under again. I'm going to kind of grab it like that. Okay. Then I'm going to do the reverse coming through. Under, over, under, over. So you can see how each of the little sections is separated from each other like that. Sometimes it's hard for this thing to focus if there's something else it wants to look at. Okay, there we go. You can see if I pull this open, you can see how the yarn is divided. This is just really slippery, huh? I also don't understand how mirrors work, apparently. So there's the yarn crossing over at that point, and the yarn crosses over there at that point too. Okay, so now you have this little end. Now, the trick is, I have this yarn coming down on this side. The trick is you'll want to pull so that this end grows. Okay? But the trick is you don't want this yarn. This is the yarn that we've been using. Right? It goes all the way to the front. You don't want it to disappear. So I'm pulling this through because we're going to wrap the yarn that we used to make this figure 8 tie. We're going to wrap it. So let me just get rid of some of the slack so it's a little easier to see. So hold on to this yarn. So make the figure 8 tie, okay, and give it just a little bit of slack here. Take the end of the yarn and you're going to put it through. Okay, what you want it to do is you want it to cross the yarn so it kind of grabs it like that. Okay, you want it to grab. That way when I pull it through, and I want to pull this yarn taut, leave a little bit on this side so that you can give it some slack in between where the figure 8 is. You want this little area to breathe a little bit. Okay? Then you can see here when I pull down on this yarn, you notice how it pulls down on this one? That's what you want. Because if this doesn't get looped around here, it'll disappear into the rest of the yarn and it'll be really hard to undo what we're doing. So we left some slack on this other side, opened it up, and now we're going to take this end and loop it around the bottom and do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to divide it into 4 pieces, like that. And we're going to go under, over, under, and over. And then we're going to do the reverse, under, over, under, and over. Okay? See? So everything is separated by the yarn. And then I'm going to lengthen the end again by pulling the yarn through. But remember, don't do it all the way because we have to loop this yarn through here so that we can find it again when we're undoing the yarn. See? If I pull, this is the end of the yarn, remember? If I pull this, the yarn that's wrapped around the skein, it's the one laying on top. Okay? So we'll continue pulling. And when I pull this, I want to make sure that this yarn, this is the yarn that we're using to make the figure 8 ties, I want to make sure that this one is pulled tight, but not too tight. Like that. And then I want to pull it until there's about a finger's diameter left. And then I'll distribute that among the figure 8 tie. And then I will pull the yarn up, over, and now we're going to rotate it back so that our knot is facing us again. Okay? And then we're going to do it again. And I usually end up putting 4 of these figure 8 ties. Under, over, under, over. So these are the 2 that I keep down, and these are the 2 that I keep up. And it's very much like weaving a yarn. If you know how to do under, over, then you can do a basic tabby weave. Something that a lot of kids learn in art class in 2nd grade or something. Like that. Remember to pull it through. I actually hold on to it like this so that I'm sure that I don't lose it. Because ask me how I know. One of the times I was practicing this method, I forgot to do this looping method to catch the yarn so that I didn't lose it in the skein. I failed to keep track of it, and when I was undoing the skein, it was a pain in the butt. So I like to just pinch this here when I distribute the rest of the slack yarn for the figure 8 tie. So it was a little bit of a pain in the butt trying to find the start of it all. So here we go. We're nearing the end. This is the last one we're going to do. Under, over, and then under, over, coming back. Okay. Pull it through, leave some slack, like so. The pinch, distribute again, and then here we are. I'm just gonna tie this in a knot like that. So you notice how there aren't any of these little tied bits hanging off anywhere? It makes for a very nice presentation because it's the same color yarn, it fits in, it's invisible. It's really great if you're going to submit it for a competition, or if you are making custom hand spun for somebody, if you're going to sell this. The presentation is a little bit better, so it looks really nice. And then remember how there are two ends? There's this like knobby end, and then there's a plain end over here. What I do is I just slide it off like that, pull it off, et voila! You have your skein of yarn. So then we're going to just wash this and give it a few good thwacks and let it dry. And as you can see, it's actually pretty well balanced. It was very curly when we were plying it, as you remember from the earlier video, but because it had time to sit on the bobbin for a few days, it's not quite so kinky. Right? It is a little bit, but not a whole lot, and most of this will come out and be balanced after the wash. So if you have a Niddy Noddy, please move on to the next video. If you do not have a Niddy Noddy, then I will show you in the next video with just a chair. Okay, so this is how I'm going to store this for now until I get it washed. And I usually have several of these. Usually when I wash yarn, I have about 3 or 4 to do at a time, just because it's a little bit easier that way. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you learned something. If you have any comments or questions, you can post them below in for this video, and in the description I'll post anything extra that might be relevant. You can also find me over on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. And I will post more things to the blog related to this project, and also on Facebook too. If you want to get in on some of the photos, I have them posted there as well. But if there's anything else that I missed or you have a question about, let me know. And we'll be back with the next video where we talk about actually getting started on the project. So, thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye!